Alright, so this is going to be part 9 to What If Deku Had the Blacklight Virus. So let's just roll the intro.
They took it to 10. Let me tell you how I come through with the 1-2, kicking shit like kung fu. Treat a bad bitch like she average. I'm a savage, little hoe, what you want do? I'm about cash if the raw fast. I'ma get that little nigga by any means.
Okay, so in the last part, we actually, just got done with the events of the movie. So we're getting back into the main storyline. So we start off where Aizawa is telling the class that, everyone, even if you failed during that the teachers versus students, even if you failed that, you're still going to the training camp. And people are shocked, like he was lying to us the entire time. What a plot twist. So people are still excited, and people are like checking what they could bring to the camp. And this is when Deku remarks that we're gonna spend an entire week. I might want to get something, or get more clothes, or get a bigger bag. And this is when Katamari, or Katamari, I don't remember his name, the electric guy, basically says that, oh yeah, I should probably buy a swimsuit since I don't have one. And then this is when the invisible girl suggests to the class that why don't we all go shopping. So everyone agrees, and it's pretty much unanimous. I think even Bakugo would go. So we get to the mall, and everyone's talking about what they want to get. And everyone wants to get different things, so they decide to split up. Momo suggests to Midoriya, like, hey, how about you come with me with Jiro to go get something? And he declines because he wants to get different weights for his wrist. That's what he wanted in the anime. So the only two that are left are Ochako and Deku. And I don't think Deku would be that flustered around women since he would have a girlfriend, which was Momo. So he would say, he would ask Uraraka, like, oh, what are you trying to get? And she would just say, like, oh, I'm just getting some kind of what was it, like bug spray, so she wouldn't, the mosquitoes wouldn't bother her. So they would go in opposite directions. And then this is when a person in a black hoodie actually comes up to Deku and says, oh, are you from UA? Can I get an autograph? And he wraps his arm around him. And this person in the hoodie is actually Shigaraki. So he actually puts his hand around his neck and actually threatens Deku. But Deku says, if we were to fight, you wouldn't be able to win, even with your disintegration quirk. Disintegration quirk. So Shigaraki's like, well, that may be true, but can you take me down fast enough to the point where I won't be able to touch any other people? Because they're just an arm reach away. If you do anything strange, I'll go and go around and touching people, and before you can even catch me, there'll be at least 5 people dead because you wouldn't stop. So just listen to me, all right? Let's just talk. And and so Deku doesn't really try to do anything, even though his disintegration, when he uses his armor, doesn't really affect him, since he could just regenerate faster than the disintegration quirk can actually do anything. So he asks Deku, what's the difference between me and the hero killer? And Deku says, even though I don't agree with either of you, the hero killer, stuck by what he believed in and went through with it all the way to the end, while you just whenever and if anything goes not your way, you just tend to like freak out. And he Deku explains that the hero killer was inspired by All Might, or they're both similar in a way that they were both inspired by All Might. And this Shigaraki starts to think like, everyone thinks they're so safe because of All Might, and then he starts connecting the dots, and he just says like, if I kill him, then I'll show how society's so weak. So this is when he starts gripping on Deku's neck even more, almost choking him. And then this is when Uraraka comes and interrupts them. She says to let go of Deku, and things goes the same as the anime, where they had to shut down the mall for the day, and Shigaraki disappears within the crowd. So we do the next day. Midoriya, Calamari. Is that how you pronounce his name? I forgot. And Mineta would ask Aizawa if they could use the pool for endurance training, but in reality, Katamari and Mineta actually just want to use it to spy on the girls. And they're in the changing room at this point, and Deku tells them that it was a good idea. It's a easy and fun way to do some training. And they're walking out from the changing room, or the locker room, I mean. And this is when Katamari and Mineta sees all the boys from UA, or from Class 1A, including Bakugo. Because I think in this one, since he's more relaxed, I think he would join earlier. So, they would do their regular training, and they would see the girls there, and Mineta and Katamari would be, kind of disappointed because they're wearing school swimsuits instead of like bikinis and things like that. And Deku would meet up with Momo there, because neither of them knew that the other was going to be there, and they say hi and things like that, and they have like they start flirting a little, before they could do anything more. This is when they get the idea, the other students get the idea of doing that race. But before that, Ida goes up to Deku and tells him like, when I met you at the entry exam, I never thought that we could be this close of friends. You've helped me through so much, and I'm very thankful. And Deku's like, I didn't expect this, myself. We got in very strong in the past, this semester, and it's just amazing how much progress we've made. And this is when Bakugo tells Midoriya, or Deku, that you better try your best in this race, because I want to beat you at your best. So each part of the class does that race, and it goes at the same way as the anime. Before the three the three fastest in the class could actually race, Aizawa comes through and says, it's 5 o'clock, it's time to pack things up and go home. It gets to the day of going to the actual summer camp for training, and Deku's telling the class to get into single file so we get on the bus, and Aizawa says, in an hour we're going to be stopping, so be ready for that. And then when they actually get to the stop, they see two of the wild pussycats, and Deku, people don't notice or recognize them except for Deku. And Deku says, wow, it was a group formed when we were around kids, so they've been around in the business for a long time. And this is when I think her name is Pixie Bob. She actually goes up to Deku, kind of intimidates him, saying that I'm 18 at heart, because she's like very insecure about her age or something. So Pixie Bob explains to the class that we're dropping you off here. This is private land, so you can use your quirks, and where you're going to is actually near the end of that the forest. So it's 9 o'clock now. If you could get there within 3 hours, and you'll serve lunch. But if you can't get there in time, then you're not getting served anything. So people are very shocked, so they go and rush to the bus. But before they could do anything, this is when Pixie Bob like pushes them down using her quirk. So this is the point where Mineta still has to pee. So he runs into the forest trying to find a place to pee, but then he finds one of the dirt monsters, and he ends up wetting himself, just like how it was in the anime. So Deku, seeing this, he saves him before he could get hurt, and he gets an idea. Since he has wings and kind of jet boosters, not like Ida's, but like a little bit different, through a combination of like the skills that he's acquired over the parts, he gets an idea of Holchako. He says, make everyone weightless, and I'll carry everyone to the end of the forest. And Bakugo hears this, and he says, all right, let me take half. All right. So they do this, and everyone, half the class hangs on to Deku, and the other half holds on to Bakugo, because both of them can kind of fly. And they think this would be easier than just going like all out and fighting the monsters. So they do this, right? And Deku, I think they would be onto his back. So he's like flying with his wings and his jet boosters, or I guess you could call them rocket boots, because the way that they kind of function. So I'll just call them by that, right? So what happens is Pixie Bob or Knob, I think it was Pixie Knob, I don't remember, Bob, I'll just say Pixie Bob. She would notice this, and she would make more kind of earth dragons, the ones that you see in the anime. So as they're like flying over the forest, dragons would just appear throughout the forest, and the first dragon would go for Deku. So what he would do is that he would spray the dragon using his like hose arm. If you don't know what that is, that was an earlier part. I think it was in part 7 where he actually gets this from Bakugo. And then after after he sprayed it down with nitroglycerin all over the dragon, one of the people that were like holding on to Deku was Todoroki. So he would be like, all right, Todoroki, you're next. And then this is when Todoroki would alight, he would ignite the nitroglycerin that was on the dragon, and it would cause it to explode. And then the second dragon would go for Bakugo, and this is when Zero, the guy with tape arms, would actually kind of tape the dragon's wings together so they would like fall to the ground. And another dragon would go for Bakugo, and this is when the naval laser guy would actually shoot him. So this would kind of continue for like around 2 hours. So they would get there ahead of schedule, I believe, by only 1 hour. So the other, the teachers and the wild pussycats are kind of surprised that they got here so fast. They say that, we made the estimates based on, how fast we would go through it. And, everyone's pretty excited. But then this is when Aizawa kind of like tells them like, you shouldn't rely, he says like, you only got this far because you just, flew past everything, basically. And he says, well, it isn't like a bad plan. I actually commend you for doing that, but if you were actually to fight through, I don't know how long it would take you. So just think about that. And this is when Deku would meet. He would ask about the kid that was there, and this is Kota. So he would go up to him, and Kota would hit him below the belt as usual, and Deku would be in severe pain. And this is when Ito would rush to his side, saying that anything below the belt is a cheap shot. So Deku's very confused about this. Like, why would the kid just do that? So everyone's like gorging on their food as usual, just how they normally do. So since they got there early, they weren't planning on training on the first day, so they have some free time. So I think Deku would kind of get everyone together, since he is the class representative. And in this free time, I think Deku would go up to Momo and ask her, what do you want to improve the most during this this training camp. And she tells him that I would like to be more efficient with my quirk, and I would like to train more in combat. And Deku kind of smiles, right? Encouraging her to do so. And she asks him, like, what are you trying to improve? And Deku kind of ponders this because he doesn't really know. And he says, I guess I'll just evolve my quirk more. And Momo would laugh and say, don't you think you already have enough powers? And Deku was like, well, I guess I need one for every situation. And they both kind of laugh at this conversation. And it gets later on to the day. They have dinner as usual. And this is when Pixie Bulb, she basically tells them that this is going to be the only day where they actually feed them. After this, they're going to have to kind of do it on their own. So they get they have Bakugo and not Kirishima, what's his name, Todoroki, actually light the fires for the food. And Deku would be sitting with everyone. I think he'd be sitting next to Momo, and I don't think he'd be eating, since he doesn't really need to. So people would be questioning this, like, is the food that bad? And Deku would be kind of embarrassed and say, no, I don't, my quirk lets me not need to eat. And this is when Kirishima says, wow, never having to eat, that's kind of a sad life, don't you think? And this is when Momo would say, he could still eat, he just doesn't need to. And people are kind of amazed at that there's a quirk that could do that. It's kind of a strange kind of idea. So later on, they get to the hot springs part, or the bath part. So everyone's divided between the genders to go in each different kind of bathing area. And this is when actually Mineta gets the idea of going over the wall, since he hears the women. So he basically says, I now realize why I have this quirk. It's so that I could climb walls. And this is when he starts climbing over the wall with his sticky balls. And this is when Kota actually pushes him down, saying that if you want to be a good hero, you need to be a good human first. And on the other side would be the women, naked, thanking Kota, and Kota, being a little kid and never seen this before, he actually gets flustered and stumbles back. And this is when Deku actually catches him, and he brings him to I forgot her name, but one of the wild pussycats. And she thanks him for saving her I don't know what you would call Kota, the relationship, because it's her cousin's son, so I'm not sure what you would call him. I guess, I don't know, I'm not sure what you would call it. And in Deku's mind, he's thinking about what Kota did earlier. and he thinks to himself, or he thinks out loud, like, so he doesn't like heroes. And you know, the pussycat, you know, I don't know her name, so I'll just call her like I'll just call her Cat, I guess, or Pussycat. So she basically tells Deku, like, yeah, when he was younger, his parents were taken, you know, killed by another villain. And ever since then, he's kind of, you know, hated the idea of heroes because his parents were taken away because they were heroes. So if he had a normal childhood, I bet he'd just be, you know, like the rest of you guys, wanting to be heroes. And Deku kind of thinks about this, like damn, you know, this kid, you know, I thought he was just some sort of rebellious, you know, little kid, but he's actually been through a lot, and I want to change his perspective on heroes. So he's thinking of what he could do and how he could change this little kid's like mindset, you know. And it gets to the next day, the next morning, early in the morning, and this is when Aizawa tells the kids, all right, Bakugo, come here. Your record at the beginning of the year was, you know, 705 meters. Let's see if you ever like improved. And in the original, he only improved by 4 meters. 4 meters. So I think in this one, since he's been training a lot harder since Deku has a quirk, or more, you know, just in general, he's been training more because of the personality that he had near the beginning. So I think it would increase by 100 meters. And Aizawa would show the class, like, you know, they'd be shocked because they thought they've been through so much, but only show a little bit of, you know, progress. And Aizawa tells the class, like, you know, most of you guys, you know, you've been through a lot. You have the experience of a whole semester, but that's the thing. It's only experience. It's only things, you know, like that. You've only grown a little bit, only physically, and a little bit of stamina, but not really your quirks, you know. But, you know, some of you have. Take, you know, young Midoriya. You know, you see his quirk at the beginning, and it's only like a muscle enhancement, and now he could do all these crazy things. So if you can train your quirk, it could evolve and change. And I'm not saying it's going to be like Midoriya's, but it's going to change a bit, and it's going to get stronger. So this, you know, this training, you're going to feel like you're going to die. So let's hope you all survive this. And they actually start training. So I think I'll end it here. And then I'll do the training and then the other stuff in the next part. This series is almost wrapped up, since I'm going to stop it by the end of season 3, and then I'll pick it up later after season 4 is done, because it'd just be easier to do what ifs like that. So we recently just like went past like 400 subscribers. We're like at 409, I think. I really appreciate all the subscriptions, you know, all the comments you give me. You know, I'm still gonna do these older what ifs that I've done. I'm not gonna just do the newer ones, because I know people subscribed, you know, early subscribers subscribed for this type of content. So I'm still gonna do these, right? It's just that with these like older ones, I'm farther into the story, so I need to go rewatch the anime, because I haven't really watched My Hero in such a long time, especially like, you know, season 3 and stuff like that. So it's gonna take some time for older what ifs, like this one. So yeah, so this is going to be the end of the video. So yeah.